Another deep symbol that is often overlooked in scripture is the cross. Through the basic meaning of the cross is when the Messiah died on the cross, which represents death and rebirth of self. Now, what has to die on the cross? Old patterns and behaviors of self. Our lower creature-like tendencies need to be hung on the cross. Now look at the supper before the night of dying on the cross. How it talks about how we put our enemies at our table. The meat of our frustration. The bread of our flesh. And the wine of our confusion. Those would all be things that will be laid at the cross for death and rebirth. What has to die in you? Now, as I stated before, that the Bible has many symbolisms referring to psychological regeneration as well as the 4 elements of astrology. Now, the cross is also symbolic to rebirth. Did you know that? Representing the 4 elements of air, fire, earth, and water. And knowing the significance to each element is powerful in understanding the enlightenment of you. Because each element has a cardinal direction, temper of season, times of day, moments of clarity, as well as milestone and destination. Because these are all personal aspects of an individual's expression and inner self, connected to the external world. So we have to basically understand the internal jihad in order to better understand the external jihad, the war. So as we look at the cross, we can view it as a symbol that unites both the internal and external inclination of those 2 worlds. And it also reminds us of how connected we are with the universe. So when you see these seasonal rituals performed on the solstice and the equinox, they are arranged into a circle-like angle that is perfectly aligned to each cardinal direction that is exhibited as the alpha and omega in formation. Because there's no beginning or end. There's no arc or development. It's an absolute, just as Yah. And Yah wants you to be just as Him. When your spirit is in line with His divine spirit and is organically connected. And it can only be organically connected through continual prayer and meditation. Because by that, we're actually able to connect with the inner fire within us, the jihad, with the internal conflict that has to be burnt in the fire within ourselves to find that balance. Now, are you beginning to see how your inner world connects with the outer world? How it's really no different? But the thing about that is, greater is He that is in you than it is of the world. Now that is the meaning behind studying of self and rightly dividing the truth. Because everything is energy. And energy is something that connects with other resonating forms of energy you to be careful of your circle. The four corners, the square within the circle. Peep game. Now, when your energy is properly aligned, it can actually manifest one's own reality more effectively. That is actually the conversation I had with Manimal Planet. Definitely subscribe to his channel. Guy's a genius, and in many ways. But anyways, getting back to what I'm going to convey. Shout out to my boy, you know. But by us adjusting the air, the mental, to connect with the water, emotion, or state of consciousness, to our fire, our passion, and anchoring it with earth, the material, to materialize something, this puts us in a position to be a highly intelligent, sharp, keen mind, and a soul being able to see the forest through the trees by being alert in the signs of trouble and discord from external influences. So in other words, as I've said before, being properly insulated and centered in wisdom. Now look at the story, the fairy tale of the tortoise and the hare. Who won the race? The tortoise or the hare? Now when you're moving on turtle time, you're actually pacing everything versus the hare, because with the hare he made mistakes because he was moving in haste. The tortoise actually moved at his own pace to process everything. Now are you moving with the flow of the spirit? Are you moving with the war and the water that is within? Because if you look at handling water in your hands, if you can't manage that, then you're not really fit to basically facilitate wisdom, because that's essentially what it is. Now, if you look at cardinal directions in full circle, being on your square, being on your circle, full square, is a square in a circle, angles, directions, because it's not really necessarily sharp, it's round, it's like God. No beginning or ending, it just is in the right now. Did you get that? Now look at the circle, what it represents in the northern hemisphere of our psyche is symbolic to health, prosperity, and security. Now in the west, it's symbolic in our psyche as our feelings and emotions. And in the southern hemisphere of our psyche, it represents our ambition and intuition. And in the eastern hemisphere of our psyche, it represents our learning and intellectual stimulus. Knowing that you're properly aligned and you understand what it is like to be instinctively free and a radiant being, now going back to that statement, I, self-law, am master, makes sense. Because everything within your 360-degree radius has to become subdued by your energy. And by the command and the vibration of that energy puts things into subjection. That is a man walking in power. That is a man walking in his own understanding. Lower self has to die on the cross and be purified for the higher sense of self, the subconscious mind, the divine spirit organically connected with your human spirit. That's why at a basic understanding, of these instructions is for you to actually have a relationship, a continual relationship with Yah. continually talking to Yah, continually praying with Yah, continually being centered. Now, I'll give you another ritual of mine. In order to keep my energy balanced, in order to keep my spirit in line, I actually go over Psalms 23 with my hand in water and 6 candles around me. Then I go into utter silence for 7 minutes. Now, what is the 7 minutes? Symbolic to completion. Tapping into the 7th chakra. You do this ritual before you begin your day. You will see the changes. You will see the manifestation of the dreams, the vision that was placed in you before the beginning of time. You might think it's yours, but it actually is it's Yah's through you. He's planted that in a seed of knowledge in your subconscious mind, and the knowledge of who you are. So you have to study who you are, what you are, and who you belong to. The more you understand that you are an earthly master, you can rightly lead and command power. This is what woman or women secretly desire in their heart of hearts, to connect with a man that is connected to something greater than him. If you look at the rib, it was pulled out of your right side. And if you look at the rib, it's basically crooked. It's not straight. It's not broken completely, but it's bent. So it's rest in the bentness. I know before I said it's broken, but female nature is just bent on a different understanding. It's bent on an alternative perspective that was given to them in the garden by eating of the fruit. So where art thou, Adam, or atom, the nucleus, the proton, force magnetic field? All I'm going back to energy being properly centered. Where art thou? If Adam was properly centered, see, Adam was given the instruction. He had a belief, but he had counter beliefs. That's why he didn't step in between the conversation between the serpent and Eve. Now, how often does that play out to this day? How often are you eating of the fruit of your deceit? Now, let's take a journey back to what Eve is symbolic to. Your ego, your vanity, and your emotions cause you to eat of the fruit of deceit. As I said before, you have to break the first female, which is in your mind. And not symbolic to the actual female that we see, but in our mind we have that female nature as the anima and enema. Being properly centered, we can basically see the fourth circle. We can see everything in full circle. We can see our identity, our destiny, our vision, our purpose. Because we are light, just as Yah is light. See who Yah is and knowing what Yah is a very complex idea to understand. Now, if we look at it, we do have a belief, but we have sub-beliefs. See, the thing is, we have to basically doubt those sub-beliefs with our belief. It's not how you necessarily feel about a situation, it's what you believe about a situation that will defeat those sub-beliefs. How often do you ponder over what is said? Or do you replay the memory of what was done? We spend our lives overcoming negatives and sad realities. But he's actually given us the power of a sound mind and no timidness to overcome things, to be more than a conqueror. How are you conquering the task that's in front of you? If you look at Shamgar, he killed 14,000 Philistines. I believe, I don't know if the number is correct. Let me say he killed a lot of Philistines, because I'm just flowing with it, with one javelin stick, a farmer stick that had 2 cords, that had 2 prongs on it. Now, one, it represents the duality of our nature, right? Spirit and will. Goes right back to the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Now, our will is actually found in our flesh. But if it's ungoverned, it's unchecked, it's going to remain in the flesh. But if it's governed, corrected, it will manifest in the spirit as well.